Have you ever heard the story of a warship that vanished into thin air? Imagine the chaos of World War II. The US Navy desperate to gain any advantage, scientists experimenting with radical new ideas, and a secret project so strange it sounds like something out of a science fiction novel. This is the legend of the Philadelphia experiment, a tale of invisibility, teleportation, and sailors who allegedly paid a horrifying price. Before we dive into this chilling mystery, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy exploring conspiracy theories, hidden histories, and the strangest stories ever told. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. The Philadelphia experiment is one of the most famous and controversial conspiracy theories of the 20th century. According to the legend, in 1943, the Navy conducted a secret test on the USS Eldridge, attempting to render it invisible to enemy radar. But if the rumors are true, the experiment went far beyond expectations, causing the ship to disappear entirely and reappear hundreds of miles away. What really happened that day? Was it advanced science, a hoax, or something far more unsettling? Let's investigate. To really understand the Philadelphia experiment, we have to step back into the 1940s. The world was at war, and the oceans were some of the deadliest battlefields. German U-boats prowled the Atlantic, sinking Allied ships with terrifying efficiency. For the US Navy, finding a way to outsmart radar detection and protect their fleets wasn't just important, it was a matter of survival. At the same time, science was advancing at lightning speed. The war gave birth to technologies that would reshape the world: radar systems, sonar, and eventually the atomic bomb. Secret projects were happening everywhere, hidden behind locked doors and government security clearances. If the Manhattan Project could create a weapon that split the atom in total secrecy, who's to say another classified program wasn't working on invisibility? This was the atmosphere in which the legend of the Philadelphia experiment was born. People knew the government was hiding things. They knew science was moving into realms that once seemed impossible. And when whispers began of a ship that vanished in a flash of light, many found it easy to believe. After all, in wartime, the line between science fact and science fiction was thinner than ever. So where did the story of the Philadelphia experiment actually come from? Strangely enough, it didn't surface until years after World War II. In 1956, an author named Morris K. Jessup, who had just written a book called The Case for the UFO, received a series of bizarre letters. They were written by a mysterious man named Carlos Allende, also known as Carl Allen. In these letters, Allende claimed that in October of 1943, the US Navy had conducted a secret experiment at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. The subject of this test was the USS Eldridge, a brand new destroyer escort. According to Allende, the Navy was attempting to use Einstein's unified field theory to bend light and magnetism around the ship, making it invisible to enemy radar. But Allende didn't stop there. He described something far stranger. The Eldridge not only vanished from sight, it completely disappeared from Philadelphia, only to reappear in Norfolk, Virginia, over 200 miles away. The story became even darker when he claimed that the crew suffered horrific side effects. Some sailors supposedly went insane. Others became violently ill, and a few were said to have been fused into the metal of the ship itself. Jessup was fascinated but cautious. Still, the letters spread among UFO researchers, and a special annotated edition of his book, the so-called Faro edition, circulated within military circles. From there, the legend grew. What began as a handful of letters from a mysterious figure soon transformed into one of the most enduring conspiracy theories of the 20th century. The story sounds incredible. But when we look at the facts, things begin to fall apart. First, let's talk about the USS Eldridge itself. Official Navy records show that the ship wasn't even in Philadelphia at the time of the alleged experiment. In October 1943, it was deployed in the Atlantic, escorting convoys between New York and the Mediterranean. Its logbooks, which have since been declassified, make no mention of anything unusual. Then there's the question of the technology. Supporters of the Philadelphia experiment often confuse invisibility with something called degaussing. During World War II, ships were routinely fitted with electrical cables that reduced their magnetic field, protecting them from German magnetic mines. From a distance, this may have looked like some kind of strange energy experiment, but it was nothing close to bending light or teleportation. As for witnesses, the only real source remains Carlos Allende. No credible sailors from the Eldridge ever backed up his story, and many later said they had never even heard of such an event. The U.S. Navy itself has repeatedly denied that any experiment of this kind was ever conducted. Still, the lack of evidence hasn't stopped the story from spreading. And maybe that's part of the reason it endures. The absence of proof leaves just enough mystery for people to keep asking, but what if? The myth of the Philadelphia experiment thrives not on evidence, but on imagination, fear, and our fascination with the unknown. Now let's break down the science. Could a ship in 1943 really have been made invisible or even teleported? The short answer, no, but understanding why helps explain how the myth grew so powerful. First, invisibility. Modern scientists are experimenting with cloaking devices using metamaterials that can bend light around an object. But even today, these experiments are limited to microscopic scales, not entire warships. In the 1940s, the idea was pure fantasy. At best, the Navy could reduce a ship's visibility to radar through techniques like degaussing or camouflage, not make it vanish from human sight. Then there's teleportation. Supporters of the story often claim the experiment was based on Einstein's unfinished unified field theory. But there's no evidence Einstein ever worked on such a project. In real physics, quantum teleportation does exist, but it involves transferring the state of particles, not hurling a 1,240-ton destroyer across hundreds of miles. And what about the horrifying accounts of sailors fused into steel? Biologically, that's impossible. Matter doesn't just blend with metal because of a magnetic field. What's more likely is that these gruesome tales were exaggerations or outright fabrications that fueled the conspiracy. So while science firmly rejects the Philadelphia experiment, the claims were just close enough to real wartime advances that they sounded believable. After all, when you mix Einstein's name with secret military projects, people's imaginations run wild. If the Philadelphia experiment has been so thoroughly debunked, why does the legend refuse to die? The answer lies in conspiracy culture and the way secrecy fuels imagination. During World War II and the early Cold War, government secrecy was everywhere. The Manhattan Project had developed the atomic bomb in total silence, hidden from the public until Hiroshima. That single example convinced millions of people that anything was possible behind closed doors. So when rumors spread about an invisible ship, it didn't sound that far-fetched. For conspiracy theorists, the Philadelphia experiment was just the beginning. Some claimed it wasn't merely about invisibility, but about time travel. The story grew into tales of the USS Eldridge, slipping not only through space, but also through time. Others connected the event to UFO sightings and even alien technology, suggesting the Navy had tapped into knowledge far beyond human science. And then there's the tragedy of Morris K. Jessup, the writer who first took Allende's letters seriously. When he died by suicide in 1959, conspiracy circles seized on it as evidence that he had been silenced for knowing too much. Over the decades, the legend has morphed into countless variations. Teleportation gone wrong, interdimensional travel, government cover-ups. Each retelling adds another layer, making it harder to separate fact from fiction. And maybe that's the point. Sometimes the mystery itself is more powerful than the truth. Legends don't survive this long unless they strike a chord, and the Philadelphia experiment has done exactly that. Over the years, it's evolved from a fringe conspiracy into a pop culture phenomenon. In 1984, Hollywood brought the story to the big screen with the Philadelphia experiment, a film that turned the myth into a time-traveling adventure. The movie was a hit with fans of science fiction and even spawned sequels, cementing the tale in popular imagination. Since then, the experiment has appeared in countless TV shows, documentaries, novels, and even video games. Each retelling bends the story to fit new fears and fascinations, from Cold War paranoia to modern obsessions with secret government labs. But the cultural impact goes deeper than entertainment. The Philadelphia experiment became a template for how conspiracy theories spread, a mix of official denial, just enough mystery, and endless speculation. It sits alongside Roswell, Area 51, and MK Ultra as one of these stories people whisper about when discussing what governments might be hiding. On the internet, the legend found new life. Forums, YouTube videos, and podcasts keep the discussion alive, often blending it with other conspiracies like the Montauk Project or time travel experiments. Even if the details change, the core idea that the Navy once made a ship vanish remains magnetic. In short, the Philadelphia experiment isn't just a story about a ship. It's a cultural myth that keeps fueling our imagination, reminding us how much we love the line between science fiction and reality. So why do people still believe in the Philadelphia experiment, even when the evidence against it is overwhelming? The answer lies in human psychology. We are natural storytellers, wired to find patterns and hidden meanings. When faced with official denials, many people feel the opposite instinct. If they're denying it, they must be hiding something. That sense of mistrust fuels conspiracy thinking. The legend also plays on deeper fears. During the Cold War, people lived under constant threat of nuclear annihilation. Secret weapons, hidden experiments, and science gone too far became recurring nightmares. The idea of sailors fused into the steel of a ship might be horrifying, but it also reflected real anxieties about technology spinning out of control. Sociologically, the Philadelphia experiment serves as a metaphor. A ship that disappears and reappears echoes themes of loss, trauma, and disorientation in times of war. It gives shape to the chaos of a world where loved ones could vanish overnight, drafted into battles across the ocean. The story filled a cultural need for both explanation and cautionary tale. In short, the myth isn't just about invisibility. It's about trust, fear, and the human tendency to search for meaning in the unknown. Of course, not everyone buys into the Philadelphia experiment. Skeptics argue that the story survives not because of hidden truth, but because of sloppy research, exaggeration, and outright fabrication. The U.S. Navy has consistently maintained that no such experiment ever took place, and the ship's service records back them up. To many historians and scientists, that's case closed. But does debunking kill the legend? Not at all. In fact, critics suggest that the very act of denial helps the story thrive. Every official statement is seen by believers as proof of a cover-up. This paradox makes conspiracy theories nearly impossible to extinguish. From a critical perspective, the real value of the Philadelphia experiment lies in what it reveals about us. It's less about vanished ships and more about how humans deal with secrecy, fear, and the boundaries of imagination. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the mystery of the Philadelphia experiment. Whether you believe it was a top-secret military project gone wrong, a misunderstood naval procedure, or simply one of the most creative hoaxes of the 20th century, one thing is certain: the story continues to fascinate. It reminds us that sometimes the most powerful legends aren't about what really happened, but about what people fear, imagine, and choose to believe. Thank you so much for watching. We love exploring these mysteries with you, and we hope this journey into history's strangest conspiracy theories kept you hooked until the very end. Before you go, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to subscribe for more stories just like this one. Most of our viewers still aren't subscribed, so if that's you, join the community today. It only takes a second, and it helps us bring you even more hidden histories, bizarre conspiracies, and unexplained mysteries from around the world. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning the unknown.